What's up, everybody? It's IBS Yeezus, IBN Yeezus, whichever you want to call me. I haven't gotten over the brand name yet. It's been like 2 years, too, maybe 3. But I'm with Joe Insane in the Brain, man. Oh, man. I did not approve that. I don't know if Ron approved that either, but he is here. Joe, because I kind of want you to bury yourself here, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about the Chargers since you missed last week's episode.
All right, I appreciate that. Obviously, if hopefully people listen, Sebastian did a great job filling in as our South American representative. I mean, the Chargers case is pretty simple. I mean, they're the best team that didn't make the playoffs last year. I think that is pretty clear. Justin Herbert is maybe already a top 5 quarterback. If he's not 5, he's like 6. That automatically, if you have a capable roster and coaching around you, that puts you in the Super Bowl conversation, which again, I have them at minimum. I have them in the Bills facing off in the AFC Championship. And you just look around. They improved the offensive line. Slater was an all-pro rookie.
Slater was a beast.
Corey Linsley came in, played really well at center, as he always does. So they fixed most of the offensive line. Right tackle, that's kind of the one potential issue on this team, because they also got Zion Johnson, the top guard in the draft, to play right guard. Gerald Everett should be good at tight ends. Obviously, the key question at receiver is, does Josh Palmer come in and give them a third threat there? If he does, and if right tackle doesn't destroy it, doesn't ruin everything like it did in the final game of the regular season where Max Crosby was just terrorizing whichever bum they had at right tackle, the offense is going to be awesome. I think this could be the best offense in the NFL. Defensively, they brought in guys to fix a lot of their issues. Sebastian Joseph Day comes over from the Rams to be the defensive tackle because the interior line was a disaster last year. Khalil Mack, who, as you mentioned, is the reverse Kirk Cousins, shows up when it matters. If this team's as good as I think they are, they're going to have games that matter, especially if Khalil Mack actually gets to play in the playoffs again. So I think he makes a big difference. Probably the biggest difference, though, is just having J.C. Jackson coming over from the Patriots to give them a true number 1 corner. Because that allows you to do so much more with your defense. So I get Nasir Adderley and Derwin James, top 5 safety combo. There's a lot this defense can do. I think they shored up a lot of their weaknesses. Yeah, I think this is as complete a team as exists in the NFL. Probably right behind the Buffalo Bills. So to me, this is a legit contender. Obviously, I'm also all in on the coaching, at least so far as going for 4th downs goes.
I will let you know that this did not come from my burner account. But I 100% agree. The degree to which I feel the Chargers are overrated, and my desire to see them fail is to infinity and beyond. What a great line.
Bring on the haters. Let's go, Chargers.
Let's
go.
You're not doing anything right if you don't have haters, apparently. All right, so this will probably be the quickest show ever, just because I have absolutely nothing to contribute to 85-90% of the teams that we're going to talk about. But we are talking about the AFC, NFC, South divisions. We're not going to give you credit, sir. Anyway, AFC, NFC South, and we are starting with a team that is near and dear to me, the Colts. One, because they took Buckner from us, and I say took because we shouldn't have traded him. 2, because they gave my boy Wentz a second chance at life, and he ruined it. But I do like Frank Wright. I do like his coaching style. Yeah. I think his faith in Carson kind of cost him a season last year because they started out so well. Jonathan Taylor was amazing. The defense is as solid as they could possibly be. I don't think a lot of people can name a lot of the athletes on the defense, but they're a good unit. And one of the things that bothers me is when you have as good of a start as they had last year, and you still don't make the playoffs, like what does that do to your psyche as a team in the next year?
I mean, also just needing one win over the Jacksonville Jaguars to make the playoffs. I mean, there's a reason Carson Wentz is gone, and it's because someone had to leave after that game.
Yeah, it couldn't be Frank. I don't necessarily.
No, well, I think Frank is good, and I think Carson is not. So I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, and Frank is a fourth down guy. He'll go for it.
Yeah, he's pretty aggressive. I'm very pro Frank as well.
And you know why I like Frank though? Even though, like, in the difference between Frank and your guy, Frank calls his best plays. Like he ain't gonna never shortchange you when he goes for it on fourth.
I mean, that's the upside is when you're the aggressive offensive head coach, you know what plays to do, and if you're the aggressive defensive coach, sometimes you're leaning on guys and they don't always come through for you.
No, so, if you're gonna be analytical and be aggressive, then you got the data to show you which plays give you the best chance to succeed.
Right, but I'm just saying that like Frank Reich to me is at least a top quarter, so top 8 like play caller in the NFL.
Yeah.
So there's just not a lot of guys on his level. So I think, you know, you can make the right call as far as like, should we go for it or not here? But yeah, I think he has an advantage over 80 to 90% of the league on once you've made that decision to go for it, he's smarter than the vast majority of play callers.
So they add Matt Ryan. Looks like the Phillip Rivers experiment all over again.
Exactly 100% what it is.
Yeah, they added Matt Ryan. For what it's worth, I don't think Matty's a bad guy or a bad quarterback as long as you have people around him that can make plays. And he's still got receivers that can make plays. You just got to give them the ball, which they didn't do that consistently enough last year. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor and what I think is arguably the second best offensive lineman in the league in Nelson. So it's still shaping up for them to be in a position to make the playoffs. I think that's why this over under 9.5 is fair, and I would have to take the over.
Yeah, looking at this team, I mean, the offense, you assume Matt Ryan improves the offense. I will say that the one big question is who's catching passes after Michael Pittman? I can't say I'm a big Alec Pierce guy. I don't know, like senior wide receivers who never really went off truly in college don't excite me. But I do think Pittman's really good. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor and this offensive line did some work last year. You know, everyone who's in on advanced analytics and all that stuff, you know, running is less effective generally than passing. In fact, only 2 teams had a positive EPA per play running the football last year. The Colts were one of them. The Eagles were the other. Obviously, they had the advantage of having a QB who could run. This is all just Jonathan Taylor and this offensive line in Indianapolis. So they're great. Yeah, Nelson should be healthier, so hopefully that works out in their favor. There was some question about Shaq, formerly known as Darius Leonard. It sounds like he'll probably be ready week 1, if not week 1, week 2. He had surgery. He had a nerve issue that apparently has been causing him ankle pain since 2018. So he's saying he feels healthier than he has since his rookie year. So that's scary. And they added Stephon Gilmore in the back end. I think probably the biggest thing besides Ryan is Matt Eberflus got the Chicago job. He's gone as defensive coordinator. In steps Gus Bradley, who runs a bit more of a single high system than I think you generally want to use in today's NFL. Although I will say in this division,
it's not going to hurt.
It shouldn't be a big problem. You know, unless Trevor Lawrence makes the full leap, there's not that much to be scared of. So yeah, I think 9.5 is right around where this team should be. 9 honestly could win this division. If they get 10, that should take care of it. But this is kind of the team where I feel like they probably win the division. They probably make the playoffs. I just don't know that this is a team that makes any noise once they're there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just don't single high against the Chiefs.
No, don't do that.
Don't do it. But yeah, in this division, it shouldn't be much of an issue. I think this year though, the person who wins the division is the only person that's getting in the playoffs. I wouldn't bank. Yeah, I wouldn't bank on a wild card with the Dolphins getting the boost slightly, and then that AFC West where pretty much everybody's in the playoffs.
And then you got the Ravens and Bengals.
Yeah, I was like healthy Ravens, the Bengals.
And then Pittsburgh or Cleveland, I wouldn't fully count them out. I'd be surprised.
I would definitely count out Cleveland.
Probably.
Have you seen
just right?
Watson can't. He's not going to come back and light the league off.
I mean, I hope they suck. So.
Oh, you ain't even got to hope. You just got to wait for it. Oh my God! I just breaking news. Chase Young re-aggravated his ACL at Von Miller's camp. Team is not happy. He's an idiot. All right.
What's he doing at Von Miller's camp?
I have no idea, bro. And God, I'm gonna have to wear that one because I was big on Chase Young. Switching subjects, Jaguars over under 6.5. Can I just say that the Jacksonville Jaguars PR team still needs to be praised for that awesome hype? Was it the Jags? No, was it the Titans? Maybe it was the Titans. I take it back. The Titans need to be praised.
Oh
no, that was the Chargers.
I was gonna say the anime one. That was the Chargers. That's right.
Cool. I was gonna get there.
They did. That was an incredible hype.
I will forever see Jacksonville as the Jaguar that's at the bar dressed as Urban Meyer. That is by far the funniest thing ever. Oh man, but yeah, Chase is tripping, bro. If you're a Commando fan, just know I'd already picked the Jaguars to beat y'all week 1. It doesn't matter. He wasn't gonna play anyway.
I was gonna say I'm with you on that one. I'm moderately optimistic about this team. Obviously, not like predicting Jags in the playoffs, but I honestly wouldn't shock me because again, if the Colts stumble here, it's wide open, and I think this team is going to be a lot better. Granted, last year this was arguably the worst team in the NFL. So, but I think new coaching that's just a bunch of NFL vets that know what they're doing. That's a huge difference. You and I just off air, we're just talking about how we still are big on Trevor Lawrence. His pressure to sack rate. So when he got pressured 14% of the time, that turned into a sack. That's 6th best out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL last year. So as a rookie, he was already an expert at avoiding sacks. Obviously, now he has to become an expert at completing passes. The upside is they brought in some guys to help out. Christian Kirk, who, I mean, really is a solid number 2, but that's how bad things are in Jacksonville, that you need a guy like that to come in and improve everything. Evan Ingram, if he holds on to the ball, could be a good addition, although every Giants fan can tell you that's I'm a big
Evan Ingram fan, but he should have been what Kyle Pitts is supposed to be, like before Kyle Pitts.
His rookie year, he had like 800 yards. I was hyped. I was like, let's go. Yeah. And then following in the steps of Jeremy Shockey, he peaked as a rookie, and it just got worse from there. But Brandon Scherf, speaking of Commandos, coming over from them to give them their best offensive lineman. Still not a great group of offensive linemen. They're starting a rookie at center, Luke Fortner out of Kentucky. So there's some, obviously, still plenty of question marks on this offense, but I think having Doug Peterson, those guys there to call the plays, just giving Lawrence, honestly, like legit NFL players around him, even if they're not the preferred guys you'd have, just setting a higher ceiling or a higher floor for this team makes a huge difference.
The Jaguars, I feel like they're gonna surprise some people with how like competitive they'll be. I think always love a good Freddie Kitchens reference. I think that with Sunshine's ability and a coach who is open-minded and is more about actually winning football games and preparing for football games.
What a novel idea.
Protecting a brand or whatever. I think it'll be a good year for them. I always look at Jacksonville and just think, what if they had just kept that damn defense together, even if they could have just plugged and played a quarterback, found somebody. Because I mean, they got to like the AFC Championship or division.
Yeah, they were beating, what was it, the Patriots, right?
Patriots, yeah.
They were up like 10, and they had that I think it was like a fumble recovery that got called back, where they had to go back to like where they recovered it, set them back like 40 yards, and then of course the Patriots get a stop, get a score, and do Patriots things. So it's wild. Blake Bortles almost started in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and just lets you know how good defense can truly be at times. But yeah, Jaguars. I'm optimistic on the Jaguars. I'll take the over 6.5. I'll take a shot on it.
Yeah.
I want to be a fan. You know,
I think there's an outside shot they could win the division. I think there's like close to 50-50. I think they could be the second best team in this division.
This is a catch-22 for me because I had Davis Mills as one of my dark horses.
You did. You were the optimist.
Yeah, I was very optimistic on Mills, but he's also from Stanford, and that bothers me.
Hey, but Andrew Luck was good while he was there.
Yeah, but I always thought he had the talent to be an NFL quarterback. The fact that he's like, you know, was named the starter and they felt comfortable with moving forward without Watson or even looking for another quarterback is pretty cool. You know, the thing with him is the highs and lows, man. Like he's just that. I hope he got it all out of his system last year so we can see some consistency, because it's hard to say who he is because his good games were really good. There are games where you were like, yo, like when he played the Patriots, never in my life would I have thought he would have given Belichick's defense a fit, even with the lack of athleticism that the Patriots had. Schematically, they matched up well against the Texans and they just obliterated them on the offensive side of the ball. So it's an interesting project. And I think that the Texans are hoping that he'll be more of the good than the bad, so then they can actually put together a team around him because they've got a lot of holes to fill. I think they were one of the few teams, if not the only team, when you looked at the draft board on the majority of people's like team needs, it said everything.
Yeah.
I had updated my draft board to say Jesus and then everything. They just need everything, man.
Yeah, this is the least impressive roster in the NFL. You might be able to argue that like some other roster somewhere is a little bit worse, but I think it is the lowest upside because they've filled so many of the spots with just like journeyman guys who will be good enough not to totally embarrass you, but they're not going to give you anything. I mean, look at the whole offense around Davis Mills. You got Brandon Cooks, who's a good wide receiver. You got Tunsil, who's a good left tackle.
Is Brandon Cooks really good, man? Because I don't
think he's good. He put up 1,000 yards with Davis Mills and whoever else last year.
I mean, because he's the only person that can get targets. Like they got to throw to somebody.
He's the only person the other team's trying to cover too. Because
when they're up 40, are they really trying to cover him?
All right, fair enough, but I mean, he's at least like he's a quality starting wide receiver.
All right, there you go. That's better.
No one's excited to have him be their number one.
We need to use this show to define good, great, GOAT type stuff because too many people float around those words. Yeah, and it's not somebody that I would consider. Like, I'm not saying he's bad, but I mean, he's above average. I don't know if I would call him good. I don't see people kicking down the door to try to get Brandon Cooks.
I mean, I'd say he's a top 30 wide receiver in the NFL.
Top 30?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, no, that's fine. That's fine. I just had to make sure I was hearing you straight.
No, no one's excited for him to be their number one, but he's good. Laramie Tunsil, maybe you're a little bit excited he's your left tackle. That's it. Dameon Pierce is getting a bunch of hype. And listen, I think he could be a solid running back. But if that's the like thing that's making you excited about your team, it's not a good sign. The rest of the offensive line isn't good. Can you name a second Texans receiver off the top of your head?
I can't name anybody on the Texans team besides Mills and Cooks.
Right. This team, I mean, Marlon Mack was going to be the starter until Pierce showed that he was more talented than a guy who's coming off multiple injuries. So, yeah, the offense is not excited. I'm still not a believer in Davis Mills. I think this is kind of like the Gardner Minshew thing with Jacksonville
I was a big Gardner Minshew fan, okay?
Where it's like, oh, he looks all right. And then you're like, right, but this is all he is.
Wait, and we forgot about the New York legend, Mike White.
Mike White.
Yeah.
It was a fun game with Mike White. But, Yeah, when you look at all the QBs from last year, and you saw Davis Mills played about on the level with a lot of these really hyped up guys, and I think people make the mistake of then thinking that means he's about as good as they are. No, if a guy plays like crap, which is what Mills really played like, it's just Fields play like crap. Lawrence, outside of avoiding sacks, play like crap. Zach Wilson definitely played like crap. But if you have guys who have people scouted them, they watch the hours of tape, and they're like, this guy's a first rounder, I feel much more secure in believing those guys can improve than Mills can. And just keep in mind, like Mills, PFF grade, it's not the be-all, end-all, but second worst or third worst quarterback grade last year among qualifying starters. The only two guys who were worse were Sam Darnold and Ben Roethlisberger. So if you're telling me a guy who was he drafted on day 2 or was it day 3? I don't even remember.
I think it was day 3.
Yeah, so a day 3 guy who played like a bottom 5 starting QB will probably continue to play as this bottom 5 starting QB. Whereas if I'm looking at the other guys, I think I have a lot more reason for optimism that they'll improve. So, and especially, again, a terrible roster. I like Pep Hamilton as the offensive coordinator. I think he's a good coach. That's the only reason I have for optimism with offense. The defense isn't a lot different. I mean, you got Stingley and Petre coming in. Maybe they liven up that defensive backfield and they make some plays, but there's just nothing exciting about this team outside of their game. Sean Watson, like
they're gonna take some time to rebuild for sure. We're gonna talk about this on Sunday, sir. I'm not arguing with you right now.
Tom Brady was round 6. Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady was good as soon as we saw him playing, though. That's a pretty big difference between him and Davis Mills.
Yeah, but 4.5. I mean, are we really that much of a degenerate that we're gonna bet on the Texans?
I mean, I don't know that I would bet on anyone at 4.5 because, especially in a 17-game season. But if I had to bet on this, I would take the under. I just do not believe in this team at all. I have a buddy who works for the team, so I feel bad for him. But this seems like a 3 or 4 win team to me.
Let me look at the schedule real quick.
This is this is a bottom 3 team in the NFL.
It's already looking bad. They've got to play the AFC West. So yeah, under.
Yeah,
they got to play the AFC West, and mixed in that AFC West is the Cowboys, the Browns, the Dolphins.
Yeah, they have the NFC East and the AFC West. Yeah. The NFC East isn't the worst thing in the world. Maybe you can like split Commandos, Giants, or something. But
no, that's if we're being honest, they might can beat the Bears.
There are 3 games that are outside of the rest
Giants,
of the division, or Baltimore, which is an automatic loss, and then they have at Detroit and at the Jets. Oh no, that's the Jags. Sorry, the Jags could win those games. Oh, Texans have at Chicago. I would probably pick Chicago. At Miami, that doesn't feel like good, and then they get Cleveland, the game obviously, as everyone knows, when Deshaun comes back. So there's just not a lot of wins, and it's, again, I think this is just a bad team, and a bad team with a QB I don't believe in. And if you're a bad team with a QB I don't believe in, then I think you're probably the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not trying to
sorry, Lovey.
I'm not trying to bore anybody. I'm just trying to figure out a way if there's my gambling mind is trying to figure out a way if there's an over there. There is not.
I mean, they did win. Did they win 4 or 5 last year? I think it was 4, right?
Texans.
They picked 3rd, I think.
Yeah,
they picked distinctly 3rd, so I think that would be 4 wins.
Let me check.
It's like one of the things we should know.
Yeah, they won 4.
Yeah, they won 4 and 13 last year.
Why do I have to know that when my team's in the playoffs and on a historic run defensively? I'm not paying attention to anybody.
So yeah, they went 4 and 13 last year. So obviously, you could argue like, "Hey, Davis Mills will be better." That's worth the 1 win. But I'm wondering if they like swept the Jags last year or something, and like now they don't have the Jags to prey on. Yeah, they beat Jacksonville twice. Somehow beat the Chargers. So there's another reason the Chargers did not make the playoffs, is they lost to the Texans. But they beat the Jags twice. They beat Tennessee once, and they beat the Chargers once. So again, I don't think you're sweeping the Jags this year. I think the Jags, if anything, the Jags could sweep them. So yeah, I think there's a 3 or 4 win team. I'm not advising anyone to bet on an under that low, but if you want to roll the dice, I would definitely say the under and not the over.
All right. Moving on, Titans over under 9.5. No,
I feel like I take the under every year in the Titans, and so I've lost like multiple years in a row now, where they just keep proving me wrong.
Yeah, but this might be the year.
I mean, I'm gonna pick the under again. So
I was gonna say, don't give up on it now.
I'm not backing off.
Don't give up on it now. I mean, what about the Titans, man? I mean, they pretty much have the same team without Brown, which to me would spell some kind of doom because Derrick Henry's got to slow down at some point.
I mean, he was starting to a little bit last year. At least those last few games where he was still healthy, he was averaging like 3 yards per carry because they were just running him into the dirt, and that's all defenses were trying to stop it also. Yeah. So it'd be different if like they'd added someone to AJ Brown, and you're like, oh, they're gonna have more weapons. Teams can't just load up the box, but it's the reverse. I mean, it's Robert Woods coming off of an ACL injury. And then it's Treylon Burks, who a guy I'm optimistic on long term. I don't know if he's the type of guy who comes in year 1 and is lighting it up like we've seen some guys do the last couple of years. I think he's more of a year 2, year 3 breakout guy, depending on who the quarterback is. Which, I mean, maybe we see some Malik this year. If things go the way I think they will, I think there's a reasonable shot.
What does that even mean, though? Like, what are we seeing?
I mean, if this team is like 6-9, and it's like they're not making the playoffs, and let's just throw Malik out there the last 2 weeks.
That's terrible.
This is a team that went 6-2 in 1-score games, which if anyone's ever heard me talk about 1-score games, those tend to go back to the mean. You tend to end up around 500, unless you have like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, and it's literally it's like them, and maybe it's Mahomes now. Like I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers, maybe he does after the last few years because Green Bay's been winning close games at a stupid rate since they got rid of Mike McCarthy. But yeah, unless you have a top 2 or 3 QB, close games even out. You're not going to keep going 6-2 with Ryan Tannehill as your QB in close games. This team's going to even out. That's 2 games off right there. By Football Outsiders DVOA, no team overperformed more last year than Tennessee. I think the offensive line is shakier than it has been. Taylor Lewan, maybe he's a little bit better because he was coming off of an injury the year before, but I don't know. They've got some. I think they have a rookie right tackle, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, Nicholas Petit Ferrer. Maybe that's how you say his name. Out of Ohio State, he's starting at right tackle. Harold Landry's out for the year already. That's their best edge rusher. So now it's just Simmons on the inside. Otherwise, they don't have a lot of scary guys to come at you with. I mean, Kevin Baird and Monty Hooker, if you're wanting to hang your hat on something as a Titans fan, that's right up there with the Bills for the best safety combo in the NFL. But, again, they have to play the AFC West. That's tough. Their 3 games outside of what the rest of the division plays are at Buffalo, at Green Bay on a Thursday, and Cincinnati. All of those teams are better than they are. 2 of them, they're on the road. 1 of them on a short week. I don't see it happening again for Tennessee. Again, they've proven me wrong multiple times, but I think this is the year they end up going like 7-10. Yeah, I think there's a reasonable shot the Jags jump them.
I agree with the reasonable shot. Well, no, not the Jags. I was thinking Colts.
Well, I definitely think the Colts jump them. I think the Colts were a better team last year. Again, it comes down to a few plays, and hey, credit to Tennessee. They made the few plays they needed to. They beat Buffalo.
Yeah, no,
the Colts screwed up their few plays they needed, but I think on average the Colts were a better team, and so I expect that to be true this year.
From a gambling aspect, I used to see this a lot with the Steelers. They would win these close games, Tomlin's whole career as a coach, pretty much he makes games more difficult than what they should be sometimes when he wins. But they were winning but not covering the number. And
I'm sure that was a lot last year. They went 7-1 in one score games. So,
and there was a couple times where we would have podcasts and I would complain about it and say that they were overrated, because in my mind, if you're not covering the number, you're not as good as you're projected to be.
Right.
So like if the spread's 4 and you win by 1 point, like you're barely winning. Like my mind, what I've observed is that those teams, like you said, that it usually evens out. Like if we were doing like 10 games and you won 9 of those 10 by 1 score, on the flip side, basically for every Titans, there's a Lions.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you expect it to pull back some this year. Like you said, Tannehill's not the guy that I want to lead me on game-winning drives. But I give Vrabel a lot of credit as a coach. He definitely has shown that he can make adjustments, and he can.
A lot of credit.
He can scheme. That even if the game prep or like as far as like execution, if the execution is not there, because defensively they don't have the names that you would usually see from a top defense. Even when they were giving up mad points, they were still kind of formidable, and it got to a point where they figured out what they were as a defense identity-wise, and that's what they ran with, which I think ultimately ended up with them being a bend but don't break defense, whereas before or years past, I think there's more emphasis on just dominating people as much as you can. Don't let them cross midfield, and then last year was more like, well, let's just not give up a touchdown, which you see that sometimes in today's game, especially if you have an offensively or offense that's red zone efficient. You can play that way. Niners do it all the time. They'll give, and then buckle down within the 20-yard line.
But again, it helps a lot when you've got defensive linemen you can.
You need that front.
And when you had Landry with Simmons, you could argue the Titans had that front. But now that it's just Simmons at tackle, and I don't know who the edge rushers are going to be that are going to scare anybody. Like, you're counting on the Bud Dupree remix here. Like, I don't see it happening. One thing I forgot to mention about the Jags real quick. Mm-hmm. Obviously any reasonable football fan knows recovering fumbles is going to be mostly luck. They were dead last in fumble recovery rate last year. They recovered 1 out of every 3 fumbles in a game. So that's another thing where you're looking at the Jags, that should revert back towards 50%. And that could be worth a win or two when you add up how much fumbles can matter. So again, a lot of reason for optimism. They'll be a lot better. Titans, again, they could prove me wrong. 9.5 though. No, there's 0 chance I'd take the over, and I like the under quite a bit. I think this is a 7-8 win team.
I'm with you on the under too. NFC South. Ooh. We can try to make it sound interesting. Saints over under at 8. I just landed it on 8. It could be 7.5.
I like it at 7.5. At 8, I think I'm kind of like, that's probably a stay away from me.
It's probably a stay away from me just because this whole division is just not worth it to me.
Well, the Bucs are good, but we'll get to their over under. It's
I don't like the Bucs either for obvious reasons. Let's see what the Saints bring to the table. They'll probably still be pretty stout on defense.
This is a really good defense last year.
It just depends on. Well, at this point, we're not asking questions about what we're getting out of Jameis. We know we're getting out of Jameis. Can they?
I think the question is, do the turnovers come? Because they really didn't last year.
Yeah, I was going to say
only like a half season, so who knows? They could come back.
Yeah, I was going to say, will they be able to overcome those turnovers? Because they will come. It's just in this
and
team.
Sean Payton's gone as well, which that's kind of the interesting thing about this offense is you look at it and go, Michael Thomas is back, maybe healthy. Chris Olave is bringing you something. Jarvis Landry, I think he's solid slot guy. So you look at it and they're like, there's more weapons, but then you're losing one of the best coaches in the NFL, and then Teron Armstead is one of the best left tackles. He's also gone. He's in Miami. So it's kind of like, the weapons are there, but we've also seen Jameis with good weapons, and it was a lot of yards and a lot of turnovers. So I think losing that left tackle and losing that head coach and Sean Payton, That could offset whatever gains there are in personnel.
Yeah, losing Sean Payton is a big deal. And I can't like understate that. Like, it's a big deal. Like, he's a solid coach offensively, schematically. Again, he's one of those guys that he's known to be like offensive guru, offensive minded. Got a lot of years behind him. And I mean, I kind of feel like it was one of those situations where like the organization and the coach they were just tired of each other. Like, it was like a mutually like parted ways type thing, even though it might not have sounded that way. I feel like he was ready to go, maybe pursue other things, maybe just tired of the grind a little, needs a break. And the Saints were just looking to move in a different direction too, because I mean, they've been at this for a long time, man. They got one Super Bowl, more than what most people get. And you know, it's just time to move on. So new era with the Saints. At best, push is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, 8 push probably feels about right. I think there's, this is a team that should be at least most of the season in contention for that, one of the wild card spots. But when I get down to it, I'm like, do I like them as much as, the Niners? No. Do I like them as much as the Vikings? Even the Vikings, probably not, because I think that Vikings offense is going to be better. So, I mean, but again, if Jameis just avoids the turnovers, I think this defense could again be very good. This is a top 5 defense. That might be selling them short, honestly, last season. But I mean, it doesn't help that Marcus May is coming in to be one of their safeties, and he apparently was pointing a gun at a car full of teenage girls. So I don't know what that was about last week, but Saints just winning the off the field between him and Kamara, just beating the shit out of a guy in Las Vegas in February. But
the Saints also still have Kamara's stuff to deal with, I think.
Yeah, which it sounds like that'll probably not matter as far as suspensions go till next season, it looks like at this point. But yeah, at some point this year or next year, Alvin Kamara's going to miss some games.
Bucks over under 11.5. I mean, somebody's got to win in this.
I mean, before the O-line started getting hurt, I would have been real in on this over. But now you're telling me Brady's got a little bit of the sketchy interior line. That's where I start to wonder.
Somebody's got to win. I'm going back to that. I do question Brady's dedication and whether or not he's like 100% here right now, and the unnecessary drama of the preseason. Like with him, is he coming? Is he not?
I mean,
coming?
hey, when the Masked Singer calls, you got to go. That's how it works. Yeah. Just as Sarah Palin had to go, so must Tom Brady. Those are the rules.
I hope he's truly on Masked Singer so I can laugh. I really do.
He's just following in Antonio Brown's footsteps.
He'll probably bring him back, honestly.
I mean, that's probably the one thing they don't need, which is, you lose Gronk, you lose, for whatever Antonio Brown was worth last year in the games he played. But yeah, they get Russell Gage, you get Julio. So yeah, I think
they did.
Godwin sounds like he'll be back sooner rather than later. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say they did get some good news about Godwin, so that's good. But yeah, he's a question your dedication. Todd Bowles is my guy, man. I like him a lot. He's just not a guy. And I'm gonna let you guys know this as a gambler. It's not a guy you really want to follow, man. Not a guy. If you need somebody to take the points, he's gonna go for it and mess it up. He had a history of doing that with the Jets. But again, defensively, they should be solid, no matter who they got.
Right, the guys are back.
Yeah,
they're really good. I don't think there's, they should still be a top 10 defense. And if you give Tom Brady a top 10 defense, yeah, you should probably win 11 or 12 games. So
yeah, all right. So just out of default, we're gonna take the over.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, of course he's gonna leave the offense alone. We know who's running the offense: Leftwich and Brady. That's why they got Aaron's out of the way. Who by the way is like, I don't think Tom Brady be a good coach. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Most all-time greats are not great mentors or coaches. Like, duh.
Yeah, John Elway proved that about picking QBs anyway. So.
Yeah. Good God, man.
That's why Jerry West is the GOAT.
Yeah,
the only great player who was also great at finding great players.
My man, Falcons. Shout out to Keith, man. I'm taking the over.
So wait, what is it? 4.5?
Yep, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I think I'd go over. I think the Falcons should be a fun bad team. Like, there's no question it's still a bad team. AJ Terrell is awesome. He should have been an all-pro over a different cornerback that I won't name right now. But the rest of that defense is really bad. So I think the offense could be interesting. I think, are Mariota and or Ritter as good as Matt Ryan? No. But I think them being much more mobile is going to free them up to do a little bit more of what Arthur Smith wants to do with that offense. Pitts is awesome. Drake London is big. We'll find out if he's good. But yeah, I think they can do some interesting stuff. I just don't see a lot of wins. But I think 5 is a reasonable shot.
5 should be doable.
I mean, if you split with Carolina and the Saints, that gets you to 2. So got 12 more games. So they got a shot. I'm gonna look up what their.
I just want to see what the Falcons' identity is. That's all I care about. I just want to know, what are they trying to achieve with their
they got Chicago and Washington on the schedule, so that's 2 potential wins. And then they got the AFC North. So Pittsburgh and hey, as long as they play Cleveland in the first half of the season, it's a real good shot too.
Good, yeah.
But yeah, I like Arthur Smith as a play caller. I don't think you could tell much because of just who was on that team last year of what their identity would be, and obviously now you're getting new QBs in there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to find out. Obviously, one identity is just massive wide receivers, but beyond that, I'm not really sure. I do like Tyler Algier as like a 2-down back too. I think that was a good pickup. But
yeah. I mean, they got talent. I'm not trying to knock it. When I say, I guess I'll spend a little bit of time here, kind of talking about me as a fan and as a football watcher. Like, when I'm looking at franchises that are rebuilding, like, you want to see what kind of direction they're going in. Like, are we going to be a passing offense? Are we going to be a running offense? Are we going to be a clock management style offense? The main thing for the Falcons is, what are they going to be defensively? Because that's typically been their issue over the last 4 to 5 years. It's like, what are they going to do? Like, when they had Quinn, they were kind of like the zone drop back people, and then he left, and then they wanted to get aggressive, but they didn't have the personnel necessarily for it. They got one guy on one side of the field that Tim Childers will tell us about on a weekly basis. That is a decent cover corner. That's probably
did not give up 35 yards in any game.
He's solid. He's good. But what are you doing around him, though? Because if he's covering one side of the field, then what's your excuse for everything else? Like, what are we doing?
I mean, they brought in Casey Hayward, so they actually have 2 good corners now. The problem is, I don't know if there's 2 good players in the rest of the defense. Like, Grady Jarrett is good, and then I like Arnold Ebiketie, but he's a rookie. Like, their leading tackler is on the Jaguars now. So, yeah, I mean, 2 good corners helps a lot, but if that's all you have, it's going to be rough. Which, maybe you can get away with that against Carolina, possibly the Saints. But, I mean, Tom Brady is going to smoke this team, obviously. And any good passing attack should smoke. Any good offense should smoke this team because they're not going to be stopping a lot of people. But I could see them losing a lot of games 31-24, and it's like, at least I enjoyed watching that game.
And what they're gonna do offensively, I think it's not gonna work in the league today. Like, I know it was preseason, but I know they're not going to go vertical a lot. And if you can't stretch defenses in this NFL, you're gonna have issues. Which is why guys like Jimmy G get pushed to the side at some point. I know people like arm strength isn't everything, but it's also about having the willingness to let the ball go and throw. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to throw 70 yards, but if they give you 2 good looks, you got to take 2 decent shots. And guys like Ritter, who actually kind of has shown that he might have changed up a little bit.
I like Ritter.
Yeah, because in Cincy, he was not the take a shot guy. He was not.
No.
And we know Mariota in the NFL is not
that guy.
Take the shot guy either. So if one of them develops into that, like with that mentality of taking the shot, I think it could help kind of decide, where they're going to go from here as a team. Because you got guys like Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts can stretch the field, but you don't want Kyle Pitts being your wide receiver 1,
I mean, I think potentially that would be okay, except you need, whoever number 2 is to be close. Now, obviously, if they're banking on Drake London being that guy, if I remember, were you a Drake London doubter, or was that just RC?
I was 100% a Drake London doubter. He's slow.
All right, so obviously that's an issue. If your analysis was right, he ended up being my receiver 4. Like, I'm not out on him, but yeah, I can't say I was in on him the way I was some of the other guys. But if he turns out to be the guy they envision, then this is a team you could be excited about next year. Because I think if you look at it, if Ritter starts the last 6 games or whatever, looks pretty good. If Drake London looks like he's a legit wide receiver, then next year you add another receiver, because right now their other starting guys are Brian Edwards and Olamide Zacchaeus. So not much to be excited about there. If you get another guy to add in to the passing offense, if the young guys on the O-line look good, you add some talent on defense, then maybe next year this is a really interesting team, and we're like, hey, maybe they're a sleeper team. Right now, though, again, best case is the offense is functional, and the corners get some help and they win 6 games. Although maybe they're better off if they tank, and then you're either picking one of those top QBs or you're getting a crazy ransom next year to trade down.
Oh man, look, if you and Joe are on the same team, we're definitely changing the subject. I don't want
I know we discussed the Falcons enough. We're like, yeah, we'll take the over. They'll win.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take a shot on the over. Just
excited.
Yeah, it's not super excited. But the Panthers
are the real question mark, because this team, I could see them wild card contention. I could see them picking number 1.
God, it all depends on Baker, man. Motivated Baker might be a good thing, because in college, when he had a chip on his shoulder, he ended up winning the Heisman. So let's see what he can do with that same chip on his shoulder in the NFL. But he had some issues in Cleveland, and again, I was hypercritical of him. A lot of it was that he wouldn't throw the ball to like his tendencies ended up being like he regressed. Like, it was a lot of looking right side only type stuff. He wasn't progressing left to right or right to left. It was just, I'm locked in on the right side of the field. If you're in my field of vision, I'll throw the ball to you. But my internal clock says I need to run right now, and I'm gone. Like, he wasn't patient. He had Odell before the injury. He had Landry. He had Njoku, a tight end that I'm high on. I think he's a decent playmaker if you get him the damn ball. He also had one of the best rushing attacks in the last 2 seasons, and a stellar defense, and it didn't do anything for him. So this team will go as far as Baker will take them. That's my logic. I think their defense is solid. They'll have some ups and downs, but for the most part, they'll do what they need to do. It's all up to this offense, all up to Baker, all up to him getting the ball to his playmakers, because he, once again, has plenty of playmakers on this offense.
I mean, I think the optimistic case for Baker is, I know as far as PFF grading goes, 2 years ago, so the Cleveland playoff year, he's fully healthy. He was grading out as like a fringe top 10 quarterback. I think he was like 9th or 10th that year in grade. I think Stefanski and he, as far as what they wanted to do, and maybe Stefanski, part of this was he didn't believe in Baker, but Stefanski loves to run 2 tight end stuff, run heavy sets, and Baker is much more effective spreading it out, getting 3 wide, 11 personnel out there. So I think that's one reason to be optimistic is, I can't say I'm a big McAdoo guy from his Giants days, but
McAdoo?
I can tell you he was addicted to 3 wide receivers. I think we ran like 92% of the time we were out there in 11 personnel. So he's going to have the 3 wide. I mean, I'm a big DJ Moore guy. I'm excited for DJ Moore to hopefully finally catch more than 4 touchdown passes. So, yeah, I think, that's good. You got your guy, Iquanu, to hopefully improve that offensive line. That'll be key, is if this offensive line is reasonable, then I think Baker can play well, and this could be a playoff team. If the offensive line is like it was last year, then sure, Baker will be better than Sam Darnold, but he's not going to be good. And that's kind of where it ends up. I mean, the defense, you lose Hassan Riddick, doesn't help. But this defense played pretty well last year. I'm a big Brian Burns guy. I think Derek Brown's solid up the middle. We'll see if Gross Matos shows some improvement this year.
My man, Gross Matos. There's a lot of optimism on him.
The defense, I think really it comes down to the corners, because you've got J.C. Horn, you've got C.J. Henderson, who I think was a good buy low guy they got from the Jags. Those are 2 first-round corners who are very young. If they improve, and they need to improve, because, I mean, again, Henderson was bad enough in his 2 years in Jacksonville that they traded him. But I think there's a chance if those guys show out, this could be an above-average to good defense. And then, yeah, maybe this happens. I mean, one thing I'll tell you that I've learned over the years with the NFL is, I mean, everyone knows that, like, bad teams make the playoffs, good teams fall off. That's what happens. But this puts it into context. Since the Texans entered the league and we went to the 4 divisions, every single season since then, that's 2002, a team that was 5-11 or worse made the playoffs the next year. Mm-hmm. So here, let me read off to you real quick. Here are the teams. Now, obviously, we went to a 17-game schedule, so I'm going to count the 6-11 teams. Here are the teams that lost 11 or more games last year. So going back 20 years, one of these teams will make the playoffs. It's the Jets, the Texans, the Jags, the Giants, the Bears, the Lions, and the Panthers. So those 7 teams, again, 20 years of history says one of those 7 teams is going to make the playoffs. So if you're throwing a dart in one of them, Carolina would at least be near the top of the teams that I would look at as potentially doing that. I think the Jags and the AFC, I don't think the Jets can do it. I definitely don't think the Texans can do it. I also just think there's no wild card to get, which is why I don't think the Jets are going to do it, because the AFC is deep. NFC is kind of sketchy. Like, you get past Green Bay, Tampa, and the Rams, and I mean, I'm sure, there's some Eagles fans, some Cowboys fans will say they're up there. I'm more optimistic on the Eagles. I mean, yeah, we both picked them to win the division. But I think the wild card's wide open. And as a Giants fan, I can't in good consciousness tell someone we're a team that has a really good shot. I just think if we had one better corner, maybe I could believe it. I think one good corner and the defense we're going to run under Martindale is death. I think the Bears, I just don't think there's enough help for Fields. The Lions, I kind of like that roster. I just don't buy Goff. And that kind of just leaves you with the Panthers. So I don't know if I'm going to go all in and say, like, Panthers make the playoffs, because, again, they could also just suck, because this coaching staff terrifies me. But I'm leaning towards the over, at least, on the 6.5. Because, again, so one of these teams is going to make a run. Maybe it's them, because I still kind of like Baker. I think everyone got too low because he was hurt and playing through it last year.
Yeah, I'd say the over, because I mean, Rule's coaching for his job. We didn't even mention that. Like, this doesn't work.
He's gone.
I mean, I'm thinking playoffs or you're out of there.
It has to at least be close. Like, if they win 8 or more games, I bet he's back. If it's under 8, I'd say he's gone.
That's fair. College football needs him back anyway.
Yeah, he seems like he's better suited to that as opposed to, what was it? Was it Jay-Z lyrics he was dropping to explain how it was coming together somehow?
But I will say though, it might take a college-minded coach or somebody with that kind of like recent background to really bring out the best in Baker or get him comfortable again. So it's worth the shot. But if it doesn't work, I'm pretty sure they're well invested in Baker, and Rule's going to get out of there. He's probably also familiar with them too, to some extent as well. So it should be successful enough to get this over. Now, whether it gets them into the playoffs or from there, I don't know. We will be back next week.
With actual football.
Is it next week? Yeah, next week. Because the season's on Sunday. Probably Tuesday. I don't know. I'm off on Wednesday. I'll let you know. I'll see how my Wednesday through Saturday goes, or Sunday. But if you guys are listening this far, the college football show will actually be live from Texas Stadium in Austin. I'll try to find at least a little bit of like room where we can just at least talk about the game that's going to happen, and maybe touch on some like key games that day. But it will obviously be rowdy and loud. So just check the live stream. I'll put it on my Facebook. I'll put it in the group. Joe, make sure you pay attention this Sunday. A lot of guys talking about analytics, and we're going to call them out on it next week. Okay.
God, I mean, my favorite part, you talked about it. It's just when people talk about, the coaches will do it, but then the announcers are even worse. As the analytics say to do this, no, that's not what they.
And so, as I have started to say, if you have to explain to somebody that it's analytics, then you're not using analytics. It should not need to be explained why you're doing what you're doing. It just shouldn't. But I also did have a funny. There's a funny analytical moment in the Pittsburgh West Virginia game, and the guy was like, "They should have punted." I was like, "No, actually, the probability of them winning the game is probably greater if they just go for it here rather than punt it." And sure enough, West Virginia ended up driving down the field and scoring anyway. I was like, "You should have just went for it," like 1 yard or risking them scoring. Like, come on. But either way, we will talk more about that later in the season or as the season goes on. Good luck to your Giants. Hope you win 3 games. Good luck to my 49ers in this drama that they've got going on in the locker room, apparently. We will see how that plays out.
I've got your QB, and he's my fantasy starter in my IBN league.
Which QB?
The one who's starting.
The one who's starting.
Why would I take Jimmy G in my fantasy league?
Because apparently Jimmy G he might still play. That's why.
Well, that's why I got Stafford as my backup, just in case.
Oh, okay. You're good. You're good. All right, man. I'll catch you next week.
All right, later.